I was brushing my teeth, half-dressed and grumbling about the early cold snap, when I saw it. The bathroom window faces the street, and through the frosty glass, I noticed Lena standing on the porch. At first, I thought she was waiting for an Uber, maybe one of her early site meetings. But then someone stepped into view. A woman. Not someone I recognized. She was taller than Lena, with short platinum hair and a leather jacket that looked expensive. She leaned in quickly and kissed Lena, right on the mouth. It wasn't a quick, polite kiss, not the kind of see you later peck you'd give a friend or a work buddy. It had weight. It had memory. It was the kind of kiss that said this had happened before, and it would happen again. Lena didn't even flinch. She smiled after it. Smiled like she hadn't in weeks. Months, maybe. I dropped my toothbrush into the sink, toothpaste still foaming at the corners of my mouth, and just stared through the window as Lena finally turned around and came back inside, humming. When she walked into the bathroom, she froze for a second when she saw me standing there, not saying a word, just looking at her. But she recovered quickly. Too quickly. She reached for her face cream like nothing had happened and said, "What?" Like she didn't have fresh lipstick smudged at the edge of her mouth. "Who was that?" I asked, voice even but tight. I could hear my heart beating in my ears, and my hands were wet from the sink, gripping the sides of the counter so I wouldn't do something stupid. She looked at me, too calm. "Oh, her? Client. Big account. She's European. They kiss on the cheek." That wasn't her cheek. Lena smiled like I was being cute, and then said, "You're overthinking." It was nothing. Nothing. I don't know what made it worse, her lying straight to my face, or the way she said it like I was too fragile to handle the truth. I didn't argue. Not right then. I let her finish getting ready. I watched her apply foundation over her guilt and spritz perfume on her neck like she hadn't just rubbed up against betrayal on our front porch. I didn't say another word, not even when she kissed me on the forehead and said she'd be home late because she had a meeting across town. I just nodded, watched her walk out. I waited exactly 4 minutes before I slipped on my hoodie, grabbed my keys, and got into my car. I had no idea where she was going, but I needed to know if that kiss at the door was a one-off or if my wife had someone else's name in her mouth every time she told me she loved me. I didn't follow her the first day. I waited. I needed to be sure I wasn't just pissed off over something small. Maybe it was a one-time thing. Maybe she really was that casual with some people. I wanted to believe that because believing anything else would mean I had to rethink our whole life together, and I didn't feel like burning down 12 years of memories over a kiss. But when I sat at the kitchen counter that night, pretending to scroll through my laptop, I noticed how her entire mood changed after she got a text. She smiled to herself, real quiet, the kind of smile people only give to someone they're thinking about when they shouldn't be. Then she picked up her phone and walked into the bedroom, said something vague about needing to call a supplier. I waited 2 minutes, followed her, and pressed my ear to the door. Nothing loud, just her voice, soft and low, like she was saying something important, like she was trying to be heard by only one person. When I pushed the door open, she was standing with her back to me, phone still pressed to her ear, and she jumped when she saw me. She put the phone down fast, turned off the screen, and said, "You scared me. Don't sneak up like that. Who were you talking to?" She paused just a second too long before answering. "One of the painters. There's an issue with the delivery at the Elmhurst project." At that point, I didn't even bother calling out the lie. I just nodded, said okay, and walked out. But inside I knew. It was her voice that gave her away. The softness. She never used that voice when she talked business. The next morning, I didn't go into the office. I told her I had a client Zoom call from home and was going to handle some paperwork. She didn't care. She left like usual, in a rush, didn't even kiss me goodbye this time. I gave her 10 minutes and then pulled up the shared Find My app we used for emergencies. It still worked. She was headed east, not to the office. I got in the car and started driving. I kept a distance. It wasn't hard. She wasn't paying attention to anything around her. She pulled into a small coffee shop near the river, parked, and walked straight inside. 5 minutes later, the same woman from before showed up. Leather jacket, that same confident walk, like she knew exactly where she was going. They didn't hug this time. They held hands across the table like they were already in the middle of something serious. I stayed in the car and watched from across the street. I didn't even realize I was gripping the steering wheel until my fingers started to go numb. They were laughing, leaning in close, taking bites from each other's plates. It wasn't just a fling. I could see it in the way Lena looked at her. She looked calm. happy, like she hadn't looked with me in over a year. When I got back home, I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just sat on the couch and stared at the TV for a long time, not even turning it on. My phone buzzed once. A message from Lena. Just a photo of the river with a heart emoji. I didn't reply. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. That night, she came home smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. I knew because I'd bought every perfume she ever wore. She dropped her purse on the table, kicked off her shoes, and started talking about the fake meeting she didn't have. I nodded along, asked the right questions, even laughed at something she said. She had no clue I'd seen everything. She had no clue I knew. She went to shower and didn't even lock the door. When she came out, hair wet and wrapped in a towel, she looked at me and said, "You're quiet tonight." I said, "Just tired." She sat beside me, leaned her head on my shoulder, and said, "I'm glad we're getting back to normal." I didn't move. I let her sit there. And I thought, how long had she been lying like this? How many times had she come home from someone else's bed and smiled at me like nothing happened? She fell asleep early. I stayed up, staring at the ceiling, playing everything back in my head. Not just the kiss or the coffee shop, but the little things. The missed calls, the quiet tension at night, the sex she always postponed. It wasn't just about cheating. It was about everything else she'd let rot while I was still trying to fix things. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd left, months ago. I just hadn't seen it yet. It was a Wednesday. Not that it mattered, but I remember it because she made lasagna that night. And she only ever did that midweek when she was trying to make things feel normal. The house smelled good. She lit candles, played some soft music in the background like we were in a phase where couples do that sort of thing just to create atmosphere. I watched her move around the kitchen like nothing was wrong. Like her lips hadn't been on someone else's 2 days ago. Like I hadn't watched her laugh and kiss a stranger over coffee. She poured us both a glass of wine and smiled when she sat down across from me, cutting into her food like she actually had an appetite. I didn't. I pushed the lasagna around my plate for a bit, pretending to chew now and then, but I couldn't force it down. I looked at her and just said it. "So who is she?" Her fork stopped. Midair. She didn't speak for a full 10 seconds. Then she laughed like I'd just told her a stupid joke. "Who?" she asked, still holding the fork like nothing serious was happening. "You know who. The woman you kissed at the front door. The one you met by the river. The one you've been texting when you pretend you're checking on the painters." She put her fork down slowly, didn't touch her wine, and leaned back in the chair like she needed space to think. "How long have you known?" she asked, not denying anything. That told me everything. "Since Saturday. I saw the kiss. I followed you Monday. I watched you have coffee with her." Lena sighed like she'd been holding her breath for days. She didn't look angry. She didn't even look surprised. "I didn't want to hurt you," she said, and I felt my hand curl into a fist under the table without thinking. That kind of answer wasn't good enough. Not even close. "Then you shouldn't have done it," I said, my voice low, steady. I wasn't going to raise it. I wasn't going to make this dramatic. But I needed to hear it from her mouth. All of it. "It just happened," she said, eyes darting around the kitchen like maybe if she didn't look at me, it wouldn't be real. "No, it didn't. You don't just happen to cheat on someone. You plan meetings. You deleted texts. You made sure to lie to my face every day. That doesn't just happen." She didn't argue. She looked down at her plate, then at me. "Her name's Valerie. She's a designer. We worked together on that museum install last fall." "How long?" 3 months, she said quickly, like she'd practiced it. Like maybe the truth had been sitting on her tongue, waiting for the right moment to get out. "You fucked her?" I asked straight out. I wasn't going to dance around it. "Yes." I didn't flinch. I just nodded. "And you were going to tell me when?" "I don't know," she said, pushing her plate away. "I didn't plan for any of this to happen. I thought it was just a thing. I thought it would pass. But it didn't." "No." We sat there, both quiet. I looked at her, really looked, and wondered how much of what we had was still real. Or if it ever had been. "Were you planning to leave me?" She shook her head too fast. "No. I didn't want to lose you." "Then why do it?" She didn't answer right away. Then finally she said, "Because I felt alive again." And that scared me. I stood up. I didn't say anything for a moment. I paced to the window, then back to the table. "So you killed what we had just to feel something for yourself?" "It wasn't about killing anything. I didn't stop loving you," she said, and I laughed, sharp and short. "You don't cheat on someone you love. You don't lie for weeks and keep sleeping next to me pretending everything's fine if you love me." I didn't want to lose you, she said again, softer this time. But it sounded more like an excuse than a truth. Well, you did, I said. You just didn't notice yet. She didn't cry. I thought she might. Instead, she looked tired, like she'd finally run out of ways to pretend this wasn't all her fault. What do you want me to do? She asked. I want you to sit in this. I want you to admit it out loud. You cheated. You lied. You did this. Not me. Not us. You. I cheated, she said. I lied. I did this. Good, I said. Now we can move on. She looked up. Move on how? I didn't answer. Not yet. I hadn't decided what that meant. But I knew I wasn't going to keep pretending that I didn't sleep much after that night. Lena tried to act normal the next morning, but I didn't make it easy. I left the house early. No explanation, no schedule, no contact. I took my laptop and drove to a coffee shop on the other side of town, somewhere we'd never been together. I sat there with my black coffee and started thinking through everything. Our mortgage, our business, what belonged to who. We didn't have kids, but the life we built was still a mess to untangle. I didn't care about the furniture or the art pieces. I didn't care about the shared subscriptions or the vacation we had planned. I just wanted her to understand what she'd done in a way she wouldn't forget. So I didn't confront Valerie. I didn't call her or send a message or go looking for a dramatic showdown. That wasn't the point. She wasn't the point. Lena made the choices. But what I did do was open the Notes app on my phone and scroll through a list of contacts I hadn't touched in years. I picked someone who'd always been there. Someone Lena used to call my backup wife. Her name was Erin. She was a friend. Nothing had ever happened between us. But there had always been a current under the surface, the kind you don't speak about if you're trying to keep your marriage intact. Erin had flirted before, mostly in harmless ways, but I'd always brushed it off. I was married, loyal, focused. Now, I wasn't interested in loyalty. I was interested in honesty, and maybe a little satisfaction. I texted her, asked if she was free for drinks. She replied within seconds, said she was free tonight. We met at a bar downtown, one of those sleek places with low lighting and overpriced cocktails. I hadn't been there in years. She hugged me like nothing had changed, but I could feel the extra pressure in it, like she'd been waiting for that hug to mean something. We didn't talk about Lena at first. We just talked. About work. About stupid things we'd seen online. About our mutual friends. She laughed at my jokes a little too hard. I let her. Around the second drink, she asked, so why now? Why reach out? I looked her in the eye. Because I needed someone real for a change. She nodded slowly, didn't press for more. Her hand grazed mine at the bar. I didn't move away. We didn't sleep together that night. But we could have. That was the point. I let Lena know without saying a word. I came home late, smelling like whiskey and perfume I didn't wear, and she noticed. She asked, where were you? And I said, out. With who? Someone who doesn't lie to me. She stared at me, mouth tight, eyes scanning my face like she was trying to decide how much she wanted to know. I could see the anger building in her chest, but she didn't speak. She just walked into the bedroom and shut the door. I didn't follow. I sat on the couch with the TV on and let her sit with it. Let her stew in it. The next day, she was quieter. Tried to make small talk while I made coffee. I didn't give her much to work with. I wasn't rude. I wasn't cruel. But I wasn't giving her peace, either. That evening, she cooked again. Set the table. Lit a candle. I sat down, ate in silence, and said thank you when I was done. She finally snapped. Are you punishing me? I looked up from my plate. You think this is punishment? What would you call it? I'd call it clarity. She slammed her fork down. What the hell does that mean? It means I finally understand what you are. And I'm letting you see what it feels like when you're not the only one in control. So you're cheating now, she said, voice rising, trying to find a moral high ground that didn't exist anymore. I haven't done anything you didn't do first. That's not an answer. I leaned in, elbows on the table. You want details? Fine. I went out with Erin. We had drinks. We talked. She touched my hand, and I let her. I could have gone further. I didn't. But I could have. And you know what? For the first time in weeks, I felt seen. You did that to hurt me. No. I did that to remind you I have choices too. She stood up, furious now, pacing the kitchen like she needed to burn off the rage. You don't fix something by breaking it more. You broke it, I said calmly. You chose someone else. You lied. You brought this into our home. You think I'm supposed to sit here quietly and just keep being the loyal one. You could have talked to me. We could have worked through it. You don't get to cheat for 3 months and then ask for therapy when you get caught. She sat down slowly, rubbed her temples like her head was spinning. I didn't want it to come to this. Neither did I. But here we are. It took 4 days before she said anything meaningful again. For the first 3, she floated around the house like a guest who had overstayed her welcome but was too stubborn to leave. She cooked, cleaned, answered emails, and kept herself busy in ways that only made the silence louder. On the 5th day, just after I came back from a solo walk, no destination, just time spent away from the house, she was waiting in the living room. She had 2 mugs of tea on the table and that look on her face that told me she had practiced her speech in the mirror more than once. I didn't sit right away. I looked at her for a moment, then set my keys on the counter and leaned against the wall. I don't know what to do with us, she said first, her voice steady but low, like she didn't want to scare off whatever tiny thread of civility we were still holding on to. I didn't respond, so she continued. I know you're hurt, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I don't even know if I'd forgive me, but I need to say what I haven't said yet. I stayed quiet, but I moved closer. Not because I wanted to comfort her, but because I wanted to hear every word clearly. I wasn't going to give her the excuse of misunderstanding. I cheated because I was selfish, she said. Not because you were absent, not because I was lonely, and not because something was missing. I wasn't chasing something better. I wasn't escaping something bad. I did it because I could, because I was curious, because I thought I could get away with it. I finally sat down, across from her, but still didn't speak. I don't love her. I thought I might, but I don't. She was an escape. She made me feel wanted. But it wasn't real. Not the way this was real. I took what we had and treated it like it didn't matter. And that's on me. I let the words settle before I finally replied. You say it wasn't real, but you looked real happy when you were with her. She nodded. Because in that moment, I let myself believe I deserved it. And I didn't think of you. I didn't think of the life we built. I didn't think of how that would crush you. I thought of me, and that's it. I looked at her closely. So now what? I want to stay, she said. I want to fix this. I know I can't erase it. I know you'll never forget it. But I can try to earn back whatever trust one destroyed. And what if I don't want to fix it? I asked. What if I'm done? Then I'll leave. I won't fight you. I won't beg. But I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I stared at her for a long time. She wasn't crying. She wasn't playing the victim. She looked exhausted, like someone who had finally stopped lying to herself. But that didn't soften anything for me. I don't believe you're sorry, I said finally. I think you're scared. I think you saw me walk away for once and realized you're not the only one with options. That's part of it, she admitted. I am scared, but I'm also sorry. I don't expect you to believe that today, but I'll prove it to you. I shook my head. There's no proving it. You can't unfuck someone. You can't unsay the things you said to her. You can't unsend those messages or unmeet her at the coffee shop. You crossed a line that doesn't get erased with apologies. I know. I'm not sure I can live with that line in our house. I understand. We sat in silence for a while. The tea got cold between us. I finally said, I'm not making any decisions today. I'm not ready to leave. But I'm not ready to stay, either. I need time. Alone. I can go stay at a friend's. No, I said quickly. You don't get to make a graceful exit and come back when it's convenient. If I decide we're done, I'll say it. And you'll leave then. Until then, you live with it. She nodded slowly. Okay. But we're not pretending. No couple dinners. No cuddling. No sex. No touching. None of that. You don't get to play wife while I figure out if you're even a person I can live with. Okay. And if I go out and see people, you don't get to ask questions. She hesitated. Are you seeing her again? Not your business, I said. Not anymore. She swallowed hard, but didn't argue. The house was quiet in a way that didn't feel like peace. It was a silence filled with too many words left unsaid, too many days passing by where we barely looked at each other. I kept to my corner of the world, and she kept to hers. We shared meals because we had to eat, not because we wanted to sit across from each other. We talked only when it was about bills or business. There were no jokes, no casual touches, no signs of what we used to be. I thought maybe that would help me figure things out, give me the space to make a decision, but all it did was make it clearer by the day. I couldn't live in a house that made me feel invisible. I couldn't love someone who made me feel like a backup plan. One night, I came home late after grabbing dinner with someone I met through a friend. Nothing serious. Just a conversation with someone who didn't lie to me. When I walked through the door, Lena was on the couch with her laptop, pretending to work. She looked up, made eye contact for a second, then closed the screen. I walked into the kitchen and poured a drink. I didn't offer her one. She stood in the doorway and leaned against the frame. "Are you seeing her?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, but not weak. I didn't turn around. "Why do you want to know?" "Because I still care." I took a sip, turned to face her. "You cared when you were meeting someone else behind my back." "I know I don't get to ask for anything," she said. "But I still feel things. I still think about you every day." "That's not love," I said. "That's guilt." She looked like she wanted to argue, but didn't. "So is this it? You're done." I walked past her and sat down in the armchair. "I think I've been done since I saw you smile at her." She stayed standing, arms folded like she was trying to hold herself together. "I wish I could take it back." "You don't get to," I said. "You can regret it forever. That's yours now." She nodded. "So what happens now?" "I'm moving out," I said. "Tomorrow." That shook her. I could see it in the way her mouth opened slightly, like she wasn't sure if she heard me right. "You're leaving?" "Yeah." "Why not ask me to go?" "Because I don't want this house. I don't want to keep waking up in a bed where you thought about her. I don't want to sit on a couch where you lied to me. You can keep the furniture. The business too. I'll figure something else out." She looked stunned, and for the first time in weeks, she looked scared. "You're just walking away?" "No," I said. "I'm walking out." "You walked away a long time ago." She sat down slowly, like her legs had finally given up on keeping her steady. "I didn't think you'd actually go." "That's the problem," I said. "You didn't think. You gambled everything thinking I'd always be here. And you don't love me anymore?" I didn't answer right away. I wanted to be honest, but I didn't want to give her comfort. "I don't know what I feel, but I know I don't want this anymore." She wiped her face, trying to hold back tears, but not doing a great job. "I thought we were forever. You made sure we weren't." There was nothing left to say after that. I packed that night. Just the basics. Clothes, laptop, a few personal things. I left the rest. She didn't try to stop me. She watched from the hallway as I zipped up my bag. When I walked toward the door, she followed. "Will I ever see you again?" she asked. "I don't know," I said without looking back. I stepped out into the night, and for the first time in weeks, the air felt like something I could breathe without choking. She never called. I never reached out. That was the end. And now I know. Love doesn't protect you from betrayal. Loyalty doesn't earn you the same in return. You can give someone everything, and they'll still look elsewhere if they want to. I learned that the hard way. What's next for me? I don't know, but it's going to be mine. No shared passwords. No secrets I'm not supposed to see. Just me, figuring it out. Without her.